Today we're installing this bad boy, a rear sway bar for a 2004 Toyota Prius. Never seen anything like it. I never knew parts like these existed for such a car, but nonetheless, let's see what it can do.
This is all because of me.
This is all because of Alex. He's a bad
All
influence.
because of me. The viewers, you guys might be wondering why we're messing around with the Toyota Prius to begin with, after obviously watching the M5 video. And it's usually regarded as a car that many car enthusiasts wouldn't touch or drive or ever want to own at one point, but it's got its merits, you know, it's got good gas mileage and all that. And we figured it might as
demon in your backyard. Okay, yeah, whatever.
Okay. We figured we might as well, you know, kind of liven up the performance of the car with adding a rear sway bar and then also doing a Tanabe lowering springs in a later video. So we're kind of excited on how it's going to transform the way the car handles. Usually you don't see content like this on YouTube, so we figured, you know, we might as well make a little mini series dedicated to this car to just be able to see what we can do as far as how far we can take the performance. So
True. So we got your race car, then you got your daily car,
then you got your rear sway bar right here.
and then your rear sway bar.
It's time to install this bad boy. So to install this rear sway bar, it's actually pretty straightforward on this model of year in the Prius. You're obviously going to need a floor jack stands for safety. Always never work underneath the car with just a jack for obvious reasons. You're going to need the sway bar here. We're going to link it in the description below where we bought this exactly. I just use gloves for personal protection and not get my hands dirty. And the only tool really that you really will need is an impact wrench and a 19mm socket, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. It's only 2 bolts. It pulls right out. Should be pretty easy. So we'll see how that goes. So for step 1, you're gonna want to go ahead and jack up the rear of the Prius. There is a center jack support that these cars come with. Make sure that you put the jack on there safely and securely. Otherwise, if you jack the car up from anywhere else, you might risk damaging suspension components or body panels. So go ahead and just use the center jack support. Once you've gone ahead and done that, make sure you put your 2 floor jacks on either side of the vehicle. There's going to be 2 pinch welds on the right and left side of the car. Just put it right there, line them up, make sure they're secure, and then once you go ahead and do that, go ahead and drop the jack onto the floor jack so you can have a steady surface to work on. Once you have the car up in the air, you're going to want to go ahead and remove the 2 19mm bolts on either side of the sway bar. It's pretty straightforward. Just use an impact wrench, makes it super easy. There is a nut on the top of that bolt, so make sure you grab that because you will need to use it for later on in the installation when you go ahead and put the new sway bar on. This part can be a little bit tricky depending on where the car originally came from. Luckily for this car, it's a California car, so luckily there wasn't much rust built up on the sway bar, so it came out pretty easily, just a little bit of wiggling. If it doesn't really want to come out too easily in your case, you might want to use a pry bar on the back of it and actually pull it out itself. Now that we got the rear sway bar out, just make sure when you pull it out the way it comes out so you know which way to orientate the bar. So in this instance, it's going to be like that. You can just obviously right off the bat how much thicker this TRD sway bar is compared to the stock one. And while it's a lot thicker, it's also a solid bar. So it's going to be a lot more stronger when you're cornering compared to this one, where this one feels pretty hollow. But I mean, obviously Toyota never designed this car to be for performance aspects, so but this is going to be a nice addition to this car. Putting the new sway bar in is pretty straightforward as well. Just line it up the way the old sway bar came in, put it into its mount, and once it's put in the 2 19mm bolts and put the nuts on top, tighten them up, and you're pretty much ready to rock and roll.
That shit took less than 10 minutes.
Obviously you want to test drive the car after you install your parts just to make sure that it's not making any funny noises, clunky noises, anything like that. And yeah, just get used to the new performance, because the car will handle a lot differently. I know this is a Prius, but you know, every time any car you put performance mods on, you gotta treat it with a little bit of respect and just take it easy for the first couple hundred miles. One thing that's nice about usually when you do sway bars is it doesn't affect your ride quality that much. In the case of this car, like, I don't even notice that the bar is actually on there. It still feels pretty supple. But when you start to actually truck the car, you know, left to right, you notice how much more planted the rear end is with that sway bar. And again, yeah, I have to say, like, even though it's Prius, like, it, you know, any little improvements you can make to the chassis here and there are always a welcome improvement on these cars. So
any improvement is still an improvement.
Yeah, it is. So. Up the sway bar install on this car. It was pretty straightforward. You saw it only took us really like 10 minutes at the most.
For sure.
It was pretty straightforward. The fitment was perfect. I'd say the only hard part maybe you might have if the car is from an East Coast car, that sway bar might be kind of rusted into the beam, so you might need to use like a pry bar or something to actually remove it. But other than that, it was bang on straightforward. The ride quality didn't change, and that's the best part. It still feels like a very comfortable daily driver, but you get the benefit of having a stiffer sway bar, so you start taking these turns a little quicker.
I would actually list this as one of the most bang for buck upgrades you could do to any car.
Like, without a doubt. But I mean, if you decide to like take some canyon turns in this car, I mean, you got some sway bars. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll update you guys as we go along with this build, but make sure you like, subscribe, rate, comment, do whatever the hell you YouTuber guys do.